Okay. See, my name is Chris Allen. It is an extreme pleasure for me to have an opportunity to introduce to this community a man who has graciously welcomed and introduced me to his. This lecture is in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a man who has inspired many people to positive action. By working with Ronald Omyonga, living with his family, and experiencing the hospitality of his community, I have been inspired. Now I hope that many others will also be inspired to take action to make this world a better place. 2 years ago, sitting under the shade of Ronald's mom's guava tree, the success of this project and the very idea that Ronald could be brought to Bozeman seemed outrageously far-fetched. But Ronald's ideas for EWB at MSU have been infectious and have inspired people to action. The success of this project has in large part been due to the support of the Bozeman community. And now I'm excited to put in a plug for the EWB second annual Clean Water Kenya Jubilee on February 27th at the Emerson Cultural Center. It'll be an evening of food, fun, festivities, and for more information and to get on a pre-ticket sales list, please see the two on the table by the exits. All right, so now I get to talk about Ronald. Aside from being our project founder, Ronald has worked with the Rural Outreach Program where he's left a profound legacy in the Quisero region. That's something we got to discover while doing a lot of research about past projects done in the Quisero region. A lot of things have his name attached to them. He has worked with the Umande Trust in the slums of Nairobi. He's worked with Help International and TechnoServe. He's consulted for various NGOs, including UN Habitat, Practical Action, and Compassion International. Ronald is an educator. Remarkably, he's an excellent educator at both the village and university level, teaching at Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology, as well as the Nairobi Institute of Technology. He's a practicing architect and founder of Home Dream Innovations. He's a family man with two outrageously lovely daughters, who I'm sure are missing him right now. He's been a true inspiration for me, and I hope you will all join me in a huge round of applause for this humble villager from Quisero, Ronald Omyonga.
Thank you so very much, Chris. One of the problems that Chris does is overstatements. So I hope that you'll lower expectations a bit. He has done a bit of hyping up, but I'll try and meet some of those expectations, and if I don't, you can just go and have a good night and feel that you are cheated one more time. Distinguished guests, faculty, students, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to be here to give this lecture in memory of a great man and an icon of selfless service to humanity and the pursuit of civil rights for all citizens of this land. His life and those of others mentioned in the books of history, and yet many others whom we do not even know about, inspired the struggle for equality in many parts of the world and still inspires people today. That I will even share the limelight brought by my name being mentioned in the same sentence and my photograph appearing in the same poster with this legend of human history is both an honor and a privilege for which I will be forever grateful. When I was invited to speak at this event, the enormity of all of it did not sink down immediately. In my excitement, I chose the topic, Our Chance at History. I guess it was because I felt this was really a chance at history for me. A man who was born 35 years ago to a poor mother, separated from his father, who spent the first few years of his life walking about in either a pair of shorts or a t-shirt, but never both of them at the same time, who wore his first pair of shoes and slept on his first bed when he joined high school, who boarded the first moving vehicle when he was 11 years old, an open track to go sing praise songs and dance to the then President of Kenya, President Moi, in 1985. When I saw Moi, it was also the first time I saw an electric bulb and used the flash toilet. I don't think I need to say more. You therefore understand my choice of the topic. If you can imagine the same man having to board the barge, as we call it, where we come from, created by the white man, or the Mzungu, and to travel for 2 days and 2 nights to the land across the waters, as my people in Kusaro would say, and to make a speech. And as I speak now, it's night here, and Kusaro is shining. This is truly historic, don't you think? Nonetheless, this is the topic I wish to talk about tonight, and for more serious reasons than the history as it is made in the eyes of this man who at best just represents the minds of his playmates back in Kusaro. We sit here today to celebrate Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. because he took his chance at history during his days and left a mark so huge that we can never stop thinking about it. As we celebrate this day, I would like us to take time to think. When we have left this world, and God forbid it doesn't happen too soon, will people ever remember us? And if they do, what will they remember us for? I'm reminded of a scene that is aptly described in one of the greatest writers, by one of the greatest writers of our time, Stephen Covey, in his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. For those of you who are thinking about your departure from this wonderful earth, don't worry. I'm not about to tell you to imagine that this is your funeral, but I would like you to think about the kind of eulogy people would give if this was really your funeral. What would you wish to hear them say? I've heard some people say, what do I care? I'll be gone anyway. And maybe many of you think that too. Back in Kusero, we don't care. We don't worry about what people say in a funeral when we die. Because people never say the truth. I've never gone to one funeral where someone said, death has done us a great favor. This guy was a nightmare for a neighbor. And the pastor said, he wasted space in church that would have been utilized by other people who may have used the opportunity to change their ways. This is good riddance, as opposed to goodbye. Death has never been more timely. Nobody in Kenya, and I guess in America, would ever say something like that in a funeral. In Kenya, even the worst of guys are given the best of eulogies, accompanied not just by silent tears, but by wailing, throwing yourself on the ground, and other physical, sometimes violent displays of sorrow, real or imagined. And I may add, we now even have professional mourners for hire, who ensure that your funeral is sad enough so that people can know a great man died here. But on a more serious note though, each one of us would like to leave a legacy that if you're allowed to think, you look forward to hearing your own eulogy. For 5 years, I have facilitated training in Africa for NGO and development workers. And I can tell you something worth more than any money can bring. there is an inherent need in every individual to be associated with things that are much greater than themselves. We all seek to be remembered and to be part of history. That's why the need to be recognized by others and to be part of history is one of the key steps one goes through in his or her pursuit to achieve the state of self-actualization according to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I'm inclined to believe, and I may be wrong, that you are here today because you care about the kind of legacy you shall leave behind. This country's citizens, I believe more than those of many other countries, value the legacy that they bestow on the future generation. I don't want people picking me on that, but we think that you are people who really care about the kind of legacy you leave behind. So I will talk to you with the benefit of doubt, knowing that those are the kinds of people I'm dealing with. Why strive to make a contribution to humanity anyway? Today, many of us, deeply immersed in the daily struggles of life, are too busy to even pause for a moment and ask themselves, why are they here? How they got here, and where are they headed? Among many other questions. We are too busy trying to pay bills, to pursue an education, and to achieve this and that. A common guiding philosophy seems to be every man or woman for him or for herself, and just maybe God for us all. In our pursuit, we sometimes forget or do not remember enough some basic things. One of those is that we are all here for a purpose. That is why we are equipped with unique gifts and talents that prepare us for our unique individual purpose in this world. We all know that what guides a manufacturer or maker of any product is the purpose for which it will be put to use. I'm sure if you're a designer here, you don't design something, then you start thinking, what will I use it for? You start by the purpose, then you create the product, yeah? I assume that's how we were made to. So if you do not use a product for the intended purpose, then you do a great disservice to that product, and by extension, to the maker. Likewise, if we sit with the talents and opportunities we have and do not use them, we fail in our mandate to humanity. The point I'm making is that contributing to history is not a path for the chosen few, but a collective mandate for us all. As a matter of fact, I might add, you are here for only one reason: to make your contribution to history. Every extra year, month, day, hour, minute, second you live in this world is a chance you get at history. The other important point that makes it mandatory for us to make a contribution to humanity is the mere fact that we are indeed beneficiaries of the works of those who went before us. That's why we remember the founding fathers of this nation. The Wright brothers' exploits that laid the foundation that made it possible for me, this man from the other end of the world, to be standing before you today. And the many, many other scientists, philosophers, and mass movement leaders who fought to change society and at times paid for it with their lives. That is why we remember Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. today. Our role is not just to remember them and offer passive praise and glory for their works. That in itself is good, but I don't think it's good enough. The best tribute you can pay to those great icons of history, to whom we owe part of our prosperity, is to take our chances, to grab the opportunities presented today in the prevailing circumstances to make our contribution. I'm reminded of a game of football. You can imagine, it might be soccer or American football. You can imagine if you are a player and you have this teammate of yours who made some extraordinary moves when he had the ball, dodging and weaving through opponents. And then he passes the ball to you, Do you just sit there and tell him, what a move that was, man? I guess the most logical thing to do is to play your part in the game, and if possible, score. It's only after you've scored that you go back to your teammate. That was a great pass you gave. Some of us seem to be just sitting back and saying, oh, that was wonderful. We seem to be spectators, yet we're supposed to be team players. That is why we're here today. We have an obligation to make our contribution, just as we celebrate the work of our predecessors. And that's why today I'm not giving you the history of Martin Luther King. Some people thought I would give you a summary of the history. I think you guys have read it over and over. But I'm going to give you the implications of that history today. Are the challenges too huge? What can we do? We are small people. Some of those challenges are too huge. Let's think about that. I know that in our quiet moments, every so often, we look around the world and are annoyed, disappointed, or perhaps worried by all the things that are going wrong about us. The ever-growing challenge of poverty, now made worse by uncontrolled urbanization, climate change, social decay characterized by the disintegration of the family unit, substance abuse, poor access to potable water and sanitation, to a growing number of people, devastating impacts of HIV/AIDS, now reversing all gains made by medical science, malaria, tuberculosis, terrorism and war, and the list goes on and on. These challenges look enormous, that one is left wondering, what can an individual like you and I do in the face of these seemingly insurmountable challenges? Even the few of us who are brave enough to try and do something are discouraged by the cynics who will remind you of all your weaknesses and why you are designed for failure. Back in Kenya, you will be told, we have seen your types before. They thought they would change the world. They only made a fool of themselves. And a few names will even be thrown in for effect. You remember so-and-so? He tried what you're doing to do right now. And see how it turned out. Others will tell you, young man. And you know, in Africa, age is paramount. You know, if a guy is older than you, he automatically starts sharper than you. You know, if a guy is older than you, his opinion is valued more than you, irrespective of what is in his brain. You know? So they say, young man or young woman, you are young. Listen to us. The white hair on our heads is not for nothing. We have seen it all. What you're doing is just playing around like a moth playing around a light. And you know how all moths end up? So at that point, most of us get discouraged. Now that I'm in the university, I'll talk about some of the things that happened. Maybe that had happened to this university, I know that. Back in Kenya, in the world of academia, you'll be told, take time to study before you can claim to contribute anything to knowledge. The way you're talking, you might otherwise contradict well-established bodies of knowledge. And if you thought you had anything to offer and you hadn't read all the books, then you just keep quiet. But, ladies and gentlemen, we live in an environment that has polluted our minds with stereotypical beliefs that we now use as our guiding principles. In my work with rural women in Africa, I can remember the numerous times I've had the women whom we were working hard to empower economically through establishment of small enterprises say, this no use, young man. I can never make it. I'm just a woman. I've also seen potential transformational leaders dismissed on the basis of where they were born and who their parents were. People would say, that family has never done anything good, so neither can that kid. But, ladies and gentlemen, today the challenges we face require that we close our eyes to the things that have in the past let us down. In my language, they say, and don't try this at home, you'll bite your tongue. Which means the vegetables that are initially despised are the ones that crown a good meal of cornmeal. You know where we come from? There is a meal called ugali. It's made out of cornmeal, and it's a huge thing. It's set at the center, and everybody is given a small piece of some vegetables, and you hammer it from different directions. And this saying has a background in that you can bring a very huge mountain of ugali, and people look at the vegetables and they say, these vegetables will never manage this ugali. But experience has shown that the vegetables that people despise at the beginning always finish the ugali. Because people are more careful knowing that the vegetables are less and they have to finish the ugali. So finally the vegetables finish the ugali. But what do I mean? The moral of this lesson is that if the challenges look too big, then they are the ones you should never fear facing. Because as a matter of fact, if you fail, it will not be a surprise since everyone expects you to fail anyway. You should therefore not fear failure, but think of what it will be like if you succeeded. And please don't laugh at me, I'll give you a story. When I was growing up and was looking for a girlfriend, I would always approach the most beautiful girl in the class. Why? Because if she said no, I'll just join the long list of failures. And that's better than being turned down by the not so cute one. But if for any reason I succeeded, which was not too often, I'll be the hero in the class. It's the same enthusiasm I apply to life's challenges. My policy always is fight the big battles. And you may test some defeats, but you will surely enjoy some awesome victories. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to assure you that there's no investment as secure as working for others. You can never make losses. Why? Because you do not expect anything in return from the people you serve. In fact, some of them will call you names and tell you, leave me alone. People in need will have lost hope and will be disillusioned. Others may be even so used to their current status that they have started feeling that they brought the poverty or the sickness upon themselves, and they have now even owned it. They will use such phrases like, my poverty, this disease of mine, and so on. At that point, it's very hard to try to get them healthy or to improve their economic status. Again, in Luya, we have a saying about this. And as I said, my warning still stands. Don't try this at home. Which basically translates to the story that if you wanted to help a crippled man across the bridge, it's only possible if that man makes an effort to crawl. As the agent of change in people's lives, you must be ready to inspire them and have a vision again. You must inspire them to want to see again, and that takes work. I'm reminded of an incident in Kenya. And Kenya people take a lot of illicit brews, because beer is a bit expensive. So you want something that can knock you out quick. So there were people who were taking an illicit brew that was laced with methane. Methane is, they lace some of the alcohol with methane, so it becomes really potent. So you just test and you're gone, and you are chanting your songs and walking down the street. But methane also causes blindness. I don't want to go into the chemistry of it. I know there are people here who are sharp in it. So these guys consumed an illicit brew that was laced with methane, and which caused blindness. And as they went blind in the ignorance, they thought that the light in the room had been switched off. And so they shouted in their drunken state, even if you switch off the lights, we shall continue to drink. For me, people who are in a state of underdevelopment don't sometimes even know where they are at. It may be painful for you to explain that the lights are on and that they're actually blind, but it must be done. The truth is the starting point to the healing process. And it is your role as the agent of development to do that painful job. So being a development agent is much more than leading people where they want to go. And I know some people who are advocates of participatory approaches will be picking a fight with me. We can have a chat after that. After this, I'll tell you something. But it's not about leading people where they want to go. Sometimes it's about helping them to identify the right direction to go. I believe in participatory approaches, but tempered with empathetic guidance, whereby you sit back and understand the situation. So you do not close your eyes to reality because the community wants to move this direction and you just leave them because the community is killing you now. For that is visionary leadership. I challenge you, ladies and gentlemen, to rise up and take up the challenge. It is our chance to grab the baton. It is our time to rewrite history. It is our time to even dare make mistakes. For it is better to fail trying than to fail humanity by lack of trying. At the end of it all, even if no one praises you, we shall smile in our graves knowing that we did our best. And there is a Nigerian saying that, like the lizard that jumped from the high Iroko tree, which said to itself that when I finally reach down there, I'll praise myself even if no one praises me. That is the spirit that we need to take as development workers. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you expected me to go on talking on and on forever. I don't believe in giving long winding speeches. I believe in more interactive sessions. So I want to take your questions, and the ones I can answer I will, but the ones I can't, too bad. But first, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in saluting all of you who are here tonight, and others not represented here, because there are many, many of you, for the gallant role you have and continue to play in changing the lives of the people of Cruzeiro and around the world. I would like to pay glowing tribute to the many young women and men who have traveled halfway around the world, fired by passion and courage to help people who they never knew and who they shared no blood relations with. Residents of this mountainous and homely city of Bozeman, who have made great sacrifices so that they will contribute towards better schooling conditions for the children of Cruzeiro. Today, one child who more than 25 years ago was exactly like the ones you are helping through your support wishes to say, Oriogno, Asante Sana, thank you so very, very much. In this spirit, I would wish to recognize the presence here tonight of a member of the team that installed the first well in Cruzeiro and thus laid the solid foundation for this project. A man who has continued to provide silent but consistent support to this program. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in saluting Mike Krekmeyer, who must be here tonight. Mike, if you are somewhere, please stand up. Seated right next to Mike is his dear wife, Joy. Please stand up. Hussein will declare an MSU lecture, just like you declared one for Martin Luther King Day. Ladies and gentlemen, I take this time to now welcome your questions. And I would just advise that you speak a bit slowly. I might not understand so quick, and I think, so just be a bit. Thank you so very much.
Chris mentioned that you were the founder of our EWP project. Can you expand on that a little bit? Tell the story about how you guys got involved and got in touch with EWP USA.
Thank you so much. Yeah, the EWP story is one story I've told, and sometimes the first thing I want to say is that I feel truly humbled by the fact that through a chance of history or an accident of history, I happen to be the one who wrote the first email to make this application. Actually, I do not want to take the credit for this project. This project has succeeded because of the great work done by students from this place and the community involvement and the people of Kusero. And so as I speak here, I think I would like that to really sink. It's not about self-aggrandizement, it's just, I was lucky enough to do this. Sometime in 2003, I was surfing the internet, and I am an architect, as Chris said. And where I come from, where I was born and raised, people do not design houses before they build them. They just build them. And I go home every time and people ask me, what did you finally become after going to school and reading all the books there are? And I tell them I became an architect. And they tell me, so what does an architect do? And they tell them, he draws houses. And I tell them, so houses are drawn before they are built? I tell them, yeah. I tell them, yeah, no. They tell me about the local artisans, and they tell me, are you like Charles? And I tell them, more like that. And I tell them, Charles didn't go to any school and he's doing a pretty good job. Did you have to go to school to do all that? You know, just do what he does? And I felt a bit disillusioned because I was not really being of use to these people. Had I been a doctor, I think it would make sense because when they are sick, they'll know that this guy became a doctor. If I had been a lawyer, for example, it would have been nice because anytime they had a land problem, I would defend them. But here is a course which wasn't helping them. So I felt that I needed to do something to give back to this community that did so much for me. Yet my current profession as it is will not be relevant to them. And I thought the only thing I can do that is through education. Why? Because I go home today and I look at the people whom I played with as a child, and I see this huge difference that exists between I and them. We can sit with them and we can no longer talk for long the way we used to do. Because they're just in a different world. And I'm in a different world. When they see me, they want something from me. And I'm not very good at giving handouts, like just most of us are. No, don't really want to keep on giving people things. So I thought the only difference there was between me and them is because I went to school. So if I created a forum where more people went to school, I'll be doing more service to that community. And I just thought, what better way to do that? Maybe through water and through sanitation. And another thing that touched me that made me really go for water is that of all the girls I was with in primary school, none of them reached college. Because when us guys were in class learning, they were up and down, going to fetch water to bring to school. So I thought that I could do something. And I wrote an application. I was surfing the internet and I got this EWB thing, and they were saying you could apply. And I started the process. I can't tell you how many emails I wrote and just back and forth. But finally, we got this project started. So my only role has been actually to do writing and to talk to my people. The work that has made this project has been done here by this community and by this university. And please don't ask me about this project again. It is about you people. It's not about me. It's about you guys. And I think the best I can do is just to say thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't say it much enough. Is that okay? You can ask your question. I'll not be that bad with next time.
Ronald, can you tell us how the Kenyan community has accepted the EWB project and what they've thought of it and kind of the repercussions?
Okay, the EWB project has been a great blessing for the people of Kusero. Just for the first reason is that there were this huge number of white people walking around Kusero. It's not normal, you know, to have these white people just walking around, sleeping in huts, and drinking our water. And the children of Kusero and the people of Kusero have just enjoyed interacting with them, saying hi, speaking to them, and just enjoying the fact that they try and speak a bit of our language. So that has been exciting. But what has been most exciting about this project for the people is that the water has changed the lives of people. I was back home over Christmas and early New Year, and it's very dry right now in Kusero. And so most of the wells that people use to fetch water during the rain season are dry. So there are long queues of people now fetching water from those wells. And if you guys could just have a chance to walk around and see the people queuing to fetch water from the wells that have been sunk by your effort, then that will show truly the appreciation of the people of Kusero. But the project has also been different. You know, they've had, the Kusero people were used to Wazungu projects which were really, you know, donor-driven, yeah? You're just given, people come and look around and they think you need a well here, and it's planted. You need this, and it's planted. But there's been a different approach here, working with communities and communities leading the process. So I can say that the level of acceptability with this project is very high among the people of Kusero because it has been done in constant dialogue with them. And they now have a system back there that anticipates what you guys are doing. And as I came here, they told me, come back and tell us what their work plan is because we want to fit them in our work plan. They are taking up responsibilities of this project. Initially, when groups travel to Kenya, they had to take care of the living expenses. Today, I want to report here, and it needs to be military, that the people of Kusero have decided that they shall feed all groups that go to Kusero as their sign of commitment to this project. So you might not feed very well. There'll be no burgers, pizzas, but you eat. So that is commitment by the people of Kusero, which shows really they have accepted you, and they're really glad that this project came. Of course, they will continue to interact with you and ask you hard questions. That's part of acceptability for that project. So I say, yes, they have accepted this project, and they feel really grateful to you people for the work you do. Scared? I can go sleep.
Ronald, I have a question for you. There's a picture over here of Peter Jacobson who traveled on one of the previous trips, and it's got a title of something like Proudest Moment or something like that. And I know that there's a lot of people who have traveled who have one thing that happened while they were there that really felt successful and like a great accomplishment. And I'm wondering if there is a time that stands out in your memory that you have really felt a great sense of accomplishment on this project or a previous one.
I think there have been several moments. for me. The first moment was when I received an email from EWB USA saying, yes, your project has been approved. And they told me 56 primary schools are too many. But I told them, yeah, that's just my wish list. You can start somewhere. And I think that was the greatest moment for me. Another great moment is when the first drill rig landed in Huisero. And I think I share that moment with Peter. And I think if many people from Huisero came here, they will tell you about that moment. Because it was a spectacle. It was like a plane landing somewhere there's never been even a car. Because people had never seen water shooting out of the ground. And the whole thing was just amazing. And for me, that was a great moment because at some point people started thinking, this project might never take off. Yeah? After the first team came and nothing happened for a year, people started telling me, oh, so you brought some tourists here. And then that. And when the first well was sunk, I was kind of relieved. So people knew that, oh, this guy promises and delivers, you know. So for me, that was the greatest moment. But there have been so many other moments. Like when the water was drilled, I was back in Nairobi. And I went back home. And for the first time, I saw women lining up and drawing water and children just jumping up there. And they said, I was part of that. That really was something. So I think the memorable moments are so many. I can't stop, but let me stop. Yes, Kate.
Just one more question.
Yes. One more question? Okay. I'm told that I'm allowed only one more question. One of the things I have is that I really talk and talk and talk. Okay.
What will you do next?
Yeah?
What will you do next? What's on your agenda tomorrow and after that?
Yeah, I'm here for 6 weeks. I'm open for dinners. Okay, I'm around, and my calendar is really controlled by these guys in blue. I'm just told this way, that way. But I'm really open. If you find me on the street and you just tell me you want us to have a one-on-one chat, I'll pull out my schedule and check. Where can we put it? Yeah. So don't worry. I'm here for the next 6 weeks. Please grab any time you can have with me and let's just chat.
After that.
Oh, after that in Kenya we're going for big things. We want to do, we're going back to do a distribution network from one of the schools to a neighboring school. Because we're trying to explore several options because drilling a well is really expensive. And we're trying to think what are the better ways of cost-effectively using the funds we have. So we have one of the high-yielding wells, and right now we are working with the engineering students to work on the design, so that next summer people might actually be going to put in a network system. But of course, it all depends on your generosity. And for the past time, we have worked mostly on the western side of Huisero. And people are really starting to think that I favor that side because apparently I come from that side. So we want to do something on the eastern side. So as we do this network, which again happens to be on the western side, we want to ensure that we do something on the eastern side. And now we have a board back in Kenya that determines where the wells go. Initially it was just like, I think I like that school, give them. Now things are pretty different. There's a board that has been constituted and it's going through the registration process, and they have actually ranked the schools the way in which we are going to do it. So how much we can do actually depends on how much we can get. And I'm hoping that by the time I leave, we'll have got so much more, Kelly, don't you think? So we can do so much more. Yeah, and please don't tire in your generosity toward the people of Israel, for they are truly thankful. Thank you so very much, ladies and gentlemen, and have a good night.